Hello, beautiful people. It's your girl, Shonna Etienne. I'm waiting for you guys to come on. When you come on, just say hi so we can get started with the virtual book club. I am ultra excited about the book club today because we're going to talk about these disrespectful kids. Yes, we are. And they're disrespectful mamas and daddies, disrespectful kids and their parents. That's what we are going to explore today. We are still in chapter 2. I'm just waiting for you guys to come on so we can get started. So for those of you guys who are new to the virtual book club, we are reading Countering a Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, written by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And we are going to have some real conversation today because he touched on some very important very important points in this chapter. For those who have the book and who are following along, we are still in chapter 2, finishing up chapter 2 today so we can go on to chapter 3. But chapter 2, he gives some really good advice as to what we are to do. Okay, so I see people coming on. Good night, Natalie. How are you? Salam alaikum, Abdul. How are you? Make sure you guys share the video. Please share the video. And if you have not liked or subscribed to the page, make sure you like and subscribe to the page. More than just follow. You have to go and like the page as well, please. So you can get your notifications for when we are on. And that'll be good. So we're going to get started. Let me just go ahead and share this video so we can pick up from here. So Abdul, you're saying you grew up reading this book. Listen, I have my son reading this book. And he's not complaining. He's not complaining. So that's a good thing because we have to start shifting the mindset of our children. We have to start really shifting their mindset because something is going on in this world. But let me just share this video and we're going to get started and I'm going to give you guys all my commentary tonight. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I got that going. Boom. I shared it. So let's pick up. So we are in chapter 2 of Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, written by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And it is an excellent book. Let me know if you guys can hear me and if the voice starts breaking up. I know yesterday some people were telling me some of my words were going in and out. You got to let me know. I positioned the mic differently today to be able to pick up on my words. And I'm sitting a little bit closer. So if you see all my flaws, welcome, welcome, welcome. Love you. Hey, Vanessa, how are you? Let's get started, guys. How are you? So yesterday we left off with how we need to start working with our boys at a young age so that they can build up their ability to sit still and to concentrate. Because as we said yesterday, boys are born differently than girls. They have a lot more muscle mass than girls do. They are a lot more hyperactive, but that's the word we don't want to use. They have a lot more verve than what girls do. That's the word we want to replace with. Because when we start to call people hyperactive, is a form of labeling, is a form of judgment. And once that happens, our children, as well as other people, they tend not to see them for all their talents and their skills, but they see them for this one thing that they are being labeled as, and that's hyperactive. So we're going to replace that word hyperactive with the word verve, V-E-R-V-E. I gave you guys homework to do yesterday to look up verve so you can have a more in-depth understanding of what it is. It's a lot of energy, a lot of zeal that our boys have, but I want you guys to look up the word V-E-R-V-E and replace that word hyperactive that they assign to ADHD, replace it with verve. Our boys are not hyperactive, they're just born differently. So today we're going to talk about how we as parents need to do our job as well in making sure our children get through school successfully. So he says we must develop our children's social skills. They must be taught manners and respect for authority. When children enter preschool, kindergarten, and primary grades, teachers are very concerned about children's social skills. So what is social skills? What is social skills? And I know this is going to be, I'm not trying to be funny today. I'm really not trying to be funny, but we know there are some adults that have poor social skills too. So if you come across adults with poor social skills, chances are their children are going to have poor social skills as well, right? So this is no shade. Let's just be honest. So what are social skills? We know to be able to communicate effectively is a part of social skills. We know how to listen is a part of social skills. Taking turns is a part of social skills. Being able to not yell out in a classroom is social skills. Advocating for yourself is a form of social skills. The way we interact with peers, the way we interact with adults, that all goes into social skills. And children are judged by social skills. I'll tell you what, I know somebody is a dear friend of mine, and I understand how much troubles he and his wife have had with their daughter, who is, high verve. She has a lot of energy, right? And again, at the same note, even though she has all this energy, sometimes what people do, they say, oh, she's ADHD. And it gives them a pass for that behavior. But you have to also consider the fact that, yeah, maybe your child is ADHD and maybe you don't set boundaries. Maybe you don't set limits. Maybe you don't work with her to develop her social skills. So when she gets into a school setting, it's even worse for her. Not only does she have a lot of energy, high verve, but she also has poor social skills. And it kills me sometimes when I see parents dismiss their child's inappropriate behavior, or dismiss their child's calling out or talking out or disruptive behavior, and they chuck it up to a disorder, ADHD. It kills me when I see that happen, because we have to set boundaries for our children. Now let's go on and talk about what some of these parents say to their children, as opposed to working with your children so that they can have better social skills. Here's what some parents do. Hey, Charles, how are you? Coming in from California. Charles, make sure you let me know whether or not you can hear me. Hey, Bruce, I see you. I see you, Andrea. I see you, Edgar. I see you, Nick. Thank you guys for joining in. Here's what happens. Many teachers feel that African American boys are very aggressive. There's no doubt about that. Many teachers feel that African American boys are very aggressive. There is an African proverb that says, it takes a whole village to raise a child. It takes a whole village to raise one child. Not a single parent, not two parents, but a whole village. Unfortunately, many African American parents tell their children, you don't have to respect anybody but me. Now, let's not act like we never heard that before. Let's not act like we have never heard that before. There are a lot of knucklehead parents out there, and I see them. I see how they told her. What she said to you? If anybody got something to say to you, tell them to come talk to your mother. You ain't got, I'm your mother. You do what I tell you to do. And sometimes that's just the wrong attitude to have. Because whatever happened to the days where we taught our children that you respect your adults, the adults in your surrounding that you engage with, you respect your elders. Whatever happened to us telling our children to have respect for authority? That includes teachers, that includes your neighbors, that includes, police officers, I get kind of, but still have respect. Get what I'm saying? Whatever happened to those days? Now we got these parents telling these children that they don't have to respect anybody. I remember when I used to go to visit my mom before she passed away, and I would see these little kids outside and they all playing. Man, F you, suck my, and I'm like, whoa. Get the fuck out of here. You ain't my mother. Takes a whole village, right? I wanted to take my belt off and beat that little boy's behind. That's what I wanted to do. These kids are out of control. And these parents are promoting it. And so what do you think that's going to translate to when they get into school? when you're leaving them to a teacher. You think this teacher is going to have empathy and sympathy for your child and be able to talk your child through this and calm your child down? They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. So we have to recognize when we are co-conspirators to our children's demise, we are also setting our children up for failure, especially when we're telling them that they don't have to respect anybody but us. As a result, children at a young age are telling their teachers, neighbors, and other adults, "You are not my mama. You can't tell me what to do." We as parents, us, you, me, as parents, we have to ask ourselves, have we been giving our boys the resources necessary to have a successful academic and social experience? Have we been giving them the resources necessary? Have we been displaying the ability to control our own emotions? Do we cuss people out in front of our children? Are we ready to fight people in front of our children? Are we slamming doors in people's faces and not holding doors for people in front of our children? Because if we are doing these things, our children are going to model that behavior. And that's a fact. That's a fact. So you have to ask yourself, am I being an example for my child? Could I have handled that differently? Is this a conversation for me to have in front of my child? Because your children spend more time in school than they do at home Monday through Friday. So they're going to model everything they see you do in school. If you lose control and you cuss people out all the time, they're going to cuss people out. If you ain't got no respect for your wife, and if your wife ain't got no respect for the husband, what do you think is going to happen in school? We got to ask ourselves that. Are we giving our children the resources that they need to be successful in school? Or are we knuckleheads ourselves? We have to ask ourselves as educators. Now, this is for the teachers. We have to ask ourselves as educators. Are we going to provide a fair opportunity for boys in the classroom without comparing them to girls? Without comparing them to European Americans and Asian American children? Because oftentimes teachers do this. They already have an image of our black boys and our Latino boys. They already have an image of them. So are we going to stop comparing them to other children, especially female children, and customize our teaching to create an environment that they can learn in? Now we are faced with the next hurdle, kindergarten. Children, specifically African American male children, are failing. It has now reached an epidemic level where you can now fail kindergartners. When I heard of somebody repeating kindergarten, I nearly fell out. I said, what the hell are they repeating kindergarten for? There is a new level now of what is expected for a child in kindergarten. So if you had chose to keep your child home for the first 4 years of life, and you did not give that child a pen and a pencil, a pencil and a paper to be able to practice their writing, and by the time they get to kindergarten, they can't hold that pencil, that's counted against them. If you have not taught your child their alphabets, come on now, I'm talking to somebody. If you have not taught your child their alphabets, by the time they get into kindergarten, every other child knows their alphabet. What do you think is going to happen to your child? If your child does not know his numbers or her numbers by just looking at the paper, as opposed to just singing 1, 2, 3, 4, the stupid songs, yeah, it matters, but they got to be able to do that without the A, B, C, D, E. They got to be able to recognize it. So if your child is not able to recognize their numbers and their letters, what in the world do you think happens to them by the time they get into kindergarten? See, we have parents out here with this when he gets to school, he's going to learn type of attitude. That is not the society we are moving to. The society we are currently living in is judging your child from the minute they walk in the door. So when I see children who are supposed to be kindergarten ready and they can't even identify their name or spell their name, they don't know their address, they don't know something simple as cat, dog, mama, dad, I feel sorry for them. I feel absolutely sorry for them because other children got their ish together. They got it in order. And by the time your child get to kindergarten, because you was wasting time propping them up the front of the TV, letting the TV baby set your child, by the time your child gets to kindergarten, your child is behind. And then you don't even have the time to take care of your child and teach your child because you're working. And I understand you got bills to pay. I understand you got to make a living because who's going to keep the lights on and who's going to keep food in the refrigerator. I respect that and I understand that. But when you decided to have children, you decided to set your child up for success or failure. And there's no excuse because the American school system is not playing with our black boys and girls. And especially our black boys. They're not tolerating it, they're not playing with it, and they're not going to take their time to build them up. That is our job to do. In a perfect world, we will all work collectively as a team. But in America, in Black America, that's just not going to happen. Now you have the National Association of Educated Young Children, also known as NACY. They have gone on record trying to persuade educators to refrain from comparing children. Is it fair to a child who has not taught his or her numbers, alphabet, and colors before the first day of kindergarten to be placed in the slowest group and labeled at risk? Is that fair? Kindergarten used to be the grade where children were introduced to colors, alphabets, numbers, the spelling of their names, social skills, and fine motor skills. Many parents and community people in large urban areas ponder the reasons for the high dropout rate of 50% and upward. Children can be in the 9th grade and read on a 3rd through 5th grade level. That is despicable. And if you have a child that is reading off level, 3rd grade, 4th grade, but the child is in middle school, high school, you got to be real. You got to be real with yourself as well. You have to ask yourself, and I'm not talking about children who has impairments. I'm not talking about children who have autism. I'm not talking about children who has bona fide learning disabilities. See, there's a difference. If you didn't do your damn job, I'm just being honest with you. If you didn't do your damn job and you didn't reinforce homework and you didn't reinforce reading and you did not read to your children and you did not place up alphabets around your house and make your house a learning environment and you did not practice with them and you did not show them how to write their name, to identify their name, how to identify your name, to write their telephone number, their address, whatever the case is, if you have not done that consistently throughout your child's grade school level, and here it is, in 9th grade, your child is still reading like he was reading in 3rd grade, you have to take some accountability. Because a lot of us, we lack consciousness. And this ain't no game. What's going on in our community when it comes to our black boys isn't a game. It isn't a game. And we have to wake up. And every day we move about on this earth, we need to keep our children, our legacy in the center of our thinking. How have I set my children up today for success? What knowledge have I introduced my children to today? Every day should be something. But we have gotten to this habit of feeling like it's just going to happen in school. Like we sleeping, like we don't realize that there's a system working against our black boys. And then we wind up getting mad at him and her When our children are 15, 16 years old and they're frustrated because they can't get the work, they don't understand the work, they keep getting singled out, they keep getting labeled, then we get mad at them and tell them they need to get their mother effing behinds together or get the hell out. Now you want to kick your 16-year-old out. I don't understand people. I don't understand people. Many parents and community people in the large area, like I said, ponder on the reason why there's a high dropout rate. The difference begins before children enter into formal kindergarten experience. Did you hear me? Did you hear what Dr. Kunjufu is saying? The difference begins before your child even gets to kindergarten. When your child is developing, when your child is learning, and your child is processing information, and your child is so curious. I love when I see the little 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds, and they're so curious. And I hate when I see parents kill that curiosity. I cannot stand when I see a child want to read a book, and the mother or the father says, not now, and put the books down. Are they saying, Mom, what that say? What that say? Because they want to know the word. But instead of you answering the word, you tell them, stop, leave me alone, I'm on the phone. I can't stand that. We're hurting our children. So when we don't do what we're supposed to do before they get into kindergarten, by the time they get into school, guess what starts? Tracking. So I know the old school way in the 80s and the 90s, they called it tracking. I just call it an IEP now. That's what I call it now. But tracking starts. Tracking begins as early as the 8th day of kindergarten. The 8th day of kindergarten. Teachers divide students into ability groups. That is not a lie. And if I would have thought about the fact that I was going to read that to you guys today, I would have brought you guys the proof of my son, my little genius son, that's the middle child, when he was in kindergarten. When he was in kindergarten, he knew all his letters, but he was so pissed off at me the first day because he didn't want to go to school, and I brought him to school anyway. And so by the time they was testing him the first day of class, they were testing to see what his abilities were, to see how many numbers he can recognize, how many shapes he can recognize, how many colors he can recognize, how many alphabets he can recognize, if he knew the difference between a boy and a girl. They assessed them. I don't know what they do in your school district, but in this school district, they assess the children. And my child only knew, according to that teacher, 8 alphabets. And only knew about 3 numbers out of 10. And you know what she told me on that day? I'm concerned for him. Many of the other children, they know their alphabets, their shapes, their sizes, their colors, their numbers, their name. And your son doesn't know as much as the other children. They were ready to track him then. Boy, can I tell you? See, I'm real serious when it comes to education. I mean, ain't no surprise. I'm as educated as I am. I'm real serious when it comes to education. But nonetheless, let me tell you what I did when I got home. I'm not telling some of you guys to do this because I'm a Nazi when it comes to education. But I'm going to tell you what I did. When I got home, I had those flashcards, alphabets, and I taped them. As my brother Nicholas, if he's on, he'll tell you he was living with me at that time. I taped the alphabets all around the kitchen, the numbers, the colors, shapes, sizes. I taped them everywhere throughout the house. And if he was brushing his teeth, what letter is that? What number is that? And I said, don't you come back here. Don't you come back here with the bad report. I don't want to hear you don't know your alphabets. And I was mad. That was in September. In January, they called me in for a meeting. And you know what they told me? They told me, can I please stop teaching him what I'm teaching him because he's too far ahead of the other children. And he's causing disruption in the class. My son in kindergarten was reading chapter books. Chapter books. He can knock out, you hear me, knock out a Dr. Seuss book without even thinking twice. It's a video I did I did it a while ago when he was in middle school. When he got his IQ test back, because they always like to test them. They like to test them so much. And his cognitive abilities was on that of grade 16. Grade 16 when he was in middle school. Work those out. What's a grade 16? That's a bachelor's level. That's a bachelor's level when he was in middle school. They track children. They track them. And if we're not doing our job at home consistently, we're setting our children up for failure, not success. They rely on the social worker's interview and the parental registration forms. They also look at how children are dressed. Check this out, guys. How they're dressed, how they smell, whether they are verbal with adults, whether they speak Black English, Ebonics that is, whether a father is in a home, whether they are low income, and what their energy level is in the classroom. They look at that. And that's how they determine who they route, who they track for at-risk students. What is it about the environment and our assessment tools that promote the placing of Black boys in special education more than girls? This is a fact. This is a fact. And the placing of African American children in special education more than white children. What is it? What is it? You already know teachers don't like our children's music. They don't like the way we dress our kids. See, some of us, we so interested in a fashion show. We want to send our kids to school with their Jordans on and their Timbs and their Gore-Tex, right? Whatever they wear, their North Faces and their Polo. We like to dip our kids up, dip them up and they can't read a damn lick. I don't understand it. We love that. Sending our kids in leather coats, right? Kipling backpacks. And they can't even spell their name. You think them teachers are impressed that your child is part of a fashion show? They're not impressed by that. They look at that fashion show as ghetto. Then you come in there with your loud behind mouth, acting a fool, and always want to talk about you're going to sue everybody. Then they look at your child as ghetto. Then your child writes how he speaks. And he spells is as I-Z as opposed to I-S. And they look at your child as ghetto. Come on. Now, this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is how our children are judging. This is how teachers are judging our children. And how they start the whole tracking process. Now, let your son be a little bit more aggressive than anybody else. Oh, Lord, you know what's going to happen to him, right? Oh, Lord, baby, you better off homeschooling. Okay? Let your child have a filthy mouth because he's repeating after you. Because you cuss like a sailor. So he goes into school and he cuss like a sailor among his friends and at the teachers. What's going to happen to your child? The factors that contribute to the disproportionate number of African American males in special education exceed racism. It exceeds racism. There are more classified children than we have racist accounts. Exceeds racism. Sexism is a part of it. When 83% of your teaching staff is female, this is for all the educational administrators out there. Look at these numbers. I'm not making this stuff up. Take an inventory. Sit back and look at the roster in your school. 83% of your teaching staff is female. 92% of your teaching staff is white. And only 1.2% of your teaching staff is African American male. There is a very good chance that the group that's least represented, the African American males, is going to receive the brunt of the inappropriate or improper labeling that's taking place in our school system. Come on now. To remedy this problem, how do we remedy it? To remedy the problem of disproportionate numbers of Black boys in remedial reading, special education, and being labeled hyperactive, schools must realize that children learn differently. And parents must establish quiet time, introduce fine motor skill activities, teach respect for authority figures, and improve social graces, same as social skills. Now, you can't start doing this when your child's in high school. Don't come home and be like, yeah, I'm amped now. Child's in 8th grade, and now you want to start working on their quiet time. That starts before your child even gets to school. And if your child is still in the grade levels before they even get to middle school, you still have a chance. But you got to work it. You got to work it. This podcast is just not so it can sound good. This podcast is not entertainment. At the Virtual Book Club, we're here because we want to learn. And we want to change the way we're thinking. We want to change the way we're behaving. We want to change the life, not only for us, but for our children. You got to start being creative. And we got to start being active in our children's lives, both mothers and fathers, not one or the other. In addition to the solutions, we also will introduce or develop the notion of an all-black male classroom. A classroom consisted of only black boys being taught by a black male teacher. This solution would remove the opportunity to compare boys to girls. Now, I know some people said that ain't never going to happen. How is that going to happen? How is that going to happen? Let me tell you something. It's possible. Whether you like the Nation of Islam or not, no one can refute their success levels. Let me say that again. Whether you like the Nation of Islam or not, no one can refute their success levels when it comes to teaching, educating their students in their school. They get no government funding. No one can tell them how to educate the children of that school because it is an independent school. Now, the high school is only in Chicago, so I'm being told. But my child goes to one of the elementary schools. And my child is on point. Am I a member of the Nation of Islam? No. Do they accept my child? Yes. Does my child learn about who he is as a black boy? Yes, he does. Do all the black boys that I come across have confidence? Yes, they do. Do their classmates look like them? Yes, they do. Do all the parents work together? I mean, I would like to say all, I don't know, but the ones that I know, yes, we do. Do we work with the staff collectively? I don't know about any other parents, but the ones that I know, yes, we do. It can be done. So before people start to laugh at the concept, why don't you investigate or research where it is already being done at? However, it is a fact. Girls mature about 2 years ahead of boys, but this could be offset in schools that, when classifying children, would consider gender differences. Males may be 2 years behind girls in reading, but they may not be 2 years behind each other. And that's another reason why we go for the whole separating thing. Because boys do not mature at the rate that girls mature at. However, when you get into the American public school system, everybody's on the equal plane. Everybody gets put on the equal plane. So they make no exceptions for your children. They don't, they might have some, ads to recruit black male teachers, but it's not like they're real serious about it. Come on, because if they did, we'll have more of them. They wait for the upper years in school to get their black males, but we really need to have our black males in the lower years of school because that's where it makes the difference with the children. And the children are learning 2 years behind. So I'm not going to give you guys any recommendations because that is for you to decide. But there are some possible solutions to this. Some people might want to do cooperative learning or cooperative homeschooling for their boys and keep them back and don't put them into a public school until they're 7 or 8 years old so that you can work with them and work on them. Maybe that might be an option. Maybe you might want to homeschool them themselves. That might be an option. There are so many accredited schools now that you can do with your children online. They don't have to go into a school. That might be an option. There are homeschool groups. If you start linking up with other parents, that's an option. riding the school system and staying on their behind and going to board meetings is an option. There are options. We got to take them. Not everyone can do what I'm able to do. And I respect that and I understand that. And when I did not know about the African Center school my son is in, before I knew about it, and it ain't no fancy school. See, some of us, we like to look for fanciness, right? We want fanciness. Baby, I want quality and results. That's what I want. I want quality and results. I want Black owned. I want African centered. That's what I want. But let me tell you, before I got that, my child was in a public school. And yes, they were trying to track my child. And yes, they were trying to label my child, but I stayed on them like white on rice. White on rice. I sent an email. I haven't heard from anybody how he's doing. I would like to make an appointment to come out to the school to speak to the teachers. They didn't like that. They didn't like that they had to gather all the teachers up when I wanted to come out. I ain't going to wait for y'all to call me, because when y'all call me when it's a problem. Let me check on in so y'all can know this Black mama right here means something to our kid. Let me check on in. And if you're going to have your child in that kind of system, you got to learn how to check on in on your children. Ain't no job in the world more important than my kids. I checked on in. Yes, I own my own business, and I own my own business for some years now. However, my child started in a public school when I was an employee, and I checked on in. Ain't nothing no boss can ever tell me that's going to make me put my children second. Because it's either I check on in or they check them into a prison. And I ain't visiting my children in the prison. So let me finish up here and I'm out. There is a relationship between the excessive number of Black boys in special education and the 1.5 million. Let me say that again. There is a relationship between the excessive number of Black boys in special education and the 1.5 million African American males that are involved in the penal system. There is a relationship between the excessive number of Black boys in special education and meaning two are coexistent, and 1.5 million African American males in the penal system. What is the penal system? Jail. What is the penal system? Prison. What is the penal system? Halfway house. What is the penal system? Probation. What is the penal system? Parole. What is the penal system? Adjudication. Our concern is that we can intervene as early as infancy if parents and teachers heed the suggestions offered. We need to have some mechanisms to evaluate how well our boys are doing. I propose, that is Dr. Kunjufu, proposes seven parameters. The first one, someone write this in. The first parameter is spiritual development. Spiritual development. I don't care what it is, but make sure your boys are grounded and connected to a higher force. Trust me on this process. I don't care what your spirituality is, but they need spiritual development. They have to get in touch with the purpose that's greater than themselves. They have to understand that they're called for a particular role, a particular job while here on earth. Spiritual development. Number 2, somebody write this in. African identification. African identification. Specifically, their commitment, understanding, and appreciation of their race. I call it race identity maturity. He says African identification. I don't care what you call it, but they have to have a love for themselves as a Black male and for other Black people. We have to instill in our children, both male and female, a love of themselves and of their race. Because the others already hate us. And if we don't instill a love for self and their race in our children, they will subconsciously, and some of them consciously, adopt the thinking and the mindset of their oppressors. So you gotta be very careful about that. Number 3, scholarship and academic achievement. Number 3, scholarship and academic achievement. That's what we have to instill in our boys, especially in the areas of reading and tests taken. Number 4, write this down, self-esteem. Self-esteem, esteem of the self, feeling good about themselves and their ability, and knowing why they feel good about themselves. Knowing that the things in them that are beautiful, the things in them that are powerful, what makes them unique, being confident in their abilities, that all goes into self-esteem. Number 5, respect for parents and other adults. Respect for parents and other adults, not just your mama, and if the father is no damn good and he lost and nowhere to be found, he still got to have respect. They can hash that out when they become young adults and men. They can hash that out. But we teach respect. We teach respect. We can also teach self-advocacy, and our children can learn to advocate for themselves when they feel disrespected and violated, but still maintain respect and integrity. We have to teach our young black boys that, and our girls, because our girls is another story. They are out of control. Number 6, the amount of time spent with their friends and its influence on their values. The amount of time spent with their friends and its influence on their values. We have to monitor who our children are associating with. We have to put limits on that. We have to also explain to our children why. We have to give them concrete examples of where things can go. And at the same time, mentor their friends, because their friends may not have it at home. And lastly, and then I'm out, is responsibility for behavior and actions. Responsibility, somebody write that in. Responsibility for behavior and actions. Our boys and our girls don't know how to take accountability and responsibility. It is our job to teach them what it is, what that is, and why that matters. Because if they do not learn to take responsibility for their actions and their behavior, if they do not learn to take accountability for their actions and behaviors, not only will it disrupt their success in school, but they will also grow to have broken, messed up, dysfunctional relationships. All right? That's all I have for you guys tonight. Yes, baby. I had a good time tonight. This is a teaching book. Tomorrow the book is even better tomorrow. My Lord. Tomorrow we are on 4th grade failure syndrome. Ooh, check that out. 4th grade failure syndrome. For those who did not know what book we are on, we are reading the Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, written by the one and only renowned Black scholar, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. I'll speak to you guys all tomorrow night at 9 o'clock p.m. on the Virtual Book Club. Be blessed.